Don't you think the spiritual jungle is hard to navigate? There are so many ideas, concepts, and almost all of it is hard to verify in the way we usually think about things. What I want to do here is to share what I've found in terms of helpful concepts and ideas. A way to think about them that makes the landscape easier to traverse. You'll find other definitions of these words in other places. I don't expect to be in agreement with everyone here, because there is a creative aspect to our exploration. In fact, I encourage you to take these ideas and form them in such a way so that they, so to say, work for you. We're dealing with the world that can't be seen, the unknown realities. But I want to be as clear and pragmatic and helpful as I can. First, the idea of arcanums. It's a cool word, right? If nothing else, it has that going for it. I picked this up from the book Meditations on the Tarot that really has nothing to do with tarot. It's an interesting book, but quite dense and hard to read. It has the it factor some occult books have. In the first chapter of this book, about the magician card of the tarot deck, the anonymous author, and I think it gives it some extra punch when the author is anonymous, describes the idea of arcanums. I'm paraphrasing here. Arcanums are that which is necessary to, quote-unquote, know in order to be fruitful in a given domain of spiritual life. They are not allegories or secrets, as they're able to be understood and put into practice. He likens them to a ferment or an enzyme in our growth. An example of an arcanum that he describes is the effortless concentration required by the magician. You can't expect any magic to happen if you're hypnotized by something or daydreaming. Your point of power for your spiritual abilities is always in the present. So, effortless concentration, with the image of the magician as a juggler, which is the case in the Marseille tarot deck, who transforms work into play, is an example of an arcanum. If you can indulge me for a second, arcanums are like high-level, multi-dimensional metaphysical objects of truth. I won't keep talking like this, but what it means is something like, we cannot express truth in regular ways on the spiritual path, even if we want to say something that's very objectively true, like all is love. At some level, we'll find that even this is not true. We can turn on the news and look at something horrible and ask ourselves, is it really true that all is love? On some level, it's clearly not. So, on the path, we have to think about words and truth and language a bit different. Because we have to be able to abandon anything we claim, really, because language is not the deepest level of truth. Arcanums are truth beyond language. It is ideas where it clicks. For me, it's a quite physical thing. I feel it when something is true. To undersell the idea of arcanums, you could say that when you vibe with something, you've stumbled upon an arcanum. It's the experiences you have, like when you meditate or when you're in altered states of consciousness or when you are walking through the world in this state of effortless concentration and you feel like aha and ah at the same time. In the Eastern religions, it is similar to the concept of dharma, the eternal law. A way to think about it is that arcanums build up to the totality of the dharma. In Christianity, there is the logos, which is the word with a capital W, and Jesus is the Word made flesh. He is the living truth. He is an embodiment of logos, of dharma, a walking arcanum that transcends time and space. The idea of arcanums is helpful because we have to let go of our rational minds when we are exploring on the path. The intellect is too boxy, too sharp in the edges, too reductionistic. I'm not sure that's a word in English, but in Swedish we say it. The intellect cannot contain the really true ideas. Arcanums can. They are like ghost keys that unlock us. Secondly, I want to give you the idea of Loosh. It's another good word. Loosh. Basically, Loosh is our life force, our vitality, our energy streaming out from our minds into the world. I think prana is the same thing in the yogic system, but don't quote me on that. We can at all times decide where we direct our Loosh. This is our free will, which I would argue is the only thing we have. Creating ourselves by choosing what to do with this energy force given to us from up above. Most people want more Loosh. You can think of money as energy, or physical vitality, or warm new connections. This is all Loosh trading. Food and drinks, nourishment is Loosh as well, and so is the sun. I hope this makes sense to you. You can just imagine everyone and everything carrying a sort of life force that we can give and direct at all times. Now, what makes this interesting is, just like we want more Loosh in general, we want to be high energy, other entities want that as well. I hope it's okay to agree that all corporations are trying to grow, that they have this kind of life force on their own. But where people have a moral sense, at least most of the time, corporations don't. They might say they do, but if you've been around, you know that they only have one goal at the end of the day: growth. The biggest companies alive right now, these entities, are rarely asking for your money. Instead, they're asking for your attention, and then they use this attention to sell ads. I hope it's fair to say that this is objectively true. But if you put on your spiritual glasses for a second, you could say that the companies are harvesting your Loosh and using it for their own growth. In the best of worlds, this is not a bad deal. We could get some kind of pleasure or connection or whatever, and in exchange we give up some Loosh. It might be a good idea to think once in a while of whether this Loosh trade is actually in your favor. We can think broader still. There is a word that is egregores that is sometimes used, which is similar to a spirit or a demon or an angel, something with its own will. These egregores are not necessarily bad. It's just any disembodied structure of energy with an identity and a craving to live and grow. What can be good is to ask ourselves which egregores, meaning ideas, beliefs, constructs, we are giving our Loosh to. Could be a sports team, a political opinion, or even gossip and cynicism. Basically, are we making a good trade here? I think we can play any game in the world as long as we're aware of the game we're playing. Now, I'll just take this one little step further. There is this idea that the whole Earth is a Loosh factory. That there are higher level beings, aliens of sorts, harvesting our life force for their own pleasure. Kind of like we do with factory farmed animals. I have no idea if this is true or not, and it doesn't feel true to me. But it does give that interesting perspective. Where is my Loosh going? Is even a tiny bit being harvested by any vampiric entities? Addiction fits well into this idea, but keep the perspective of addiction broader than what popular medicine and popular culture tells you. If you want to be safe with this Loosh lens on, you can spend time in nature, spend time gardening, spend time creating, spend time loving. Then you can't go wrong. It also sounds like kind of a nice life. Loosh life. The third concept is esoteric. This is used to differentiate between the esoteric, which means the inner, hidden teachings of spiritual traditions, and the exoteric, which is the outer, public. You can look at Christianity and be less than impressed because you only see the exoteric parts of it. The churches, the priests, the rituals, the mixed in cultural ideas picked up along the centuries. But there is an inner, esoteric part to all spiritual traditions. And this is for me where the good stuff is. It is often portrayed through the rituals and the art and the architecture. But the esoteric message is kind of the same through all different religions. You are the divine. You are in direct connection to God because you are God. For obvious reasons, the exoteric church doesn't like to stress this. They like to control. They also like their salaries and cars and standing just a little above the rest. If you adopt the concept of being esoteric, you're free to roam all the world's religions and philosophies and find the hidden truth anywhere, from bookstores to pop songs to temples. On the path of self-realization, or should I say self-remembering, I have found this concept accelerating. It's good to remember that all the world's greatest spiritual leaders, including Jesus and Buddha, broke up with their respective traditions. It is kind of stupid, sorry to say, to assume they wouldn't want you to do the same. Jesus never talked about the church. He talked about, whenever two people meet and so forth. To reach the highest levels, you must let go of the culture and the rules set by other people. It is all inside you, that small voice, those dreams. The rules are set for many reasons, and far from all of it is for our favor. The esoteric arts is what you're learning, the hidden teachings, and the fun part is it is hidden everywhere. If we adopt this lens, we find that the whole world, everyone and everything, is all trying to teach us, as long as we're willing to listen. Okay, magic time. I love magic. It's the best. In the early 1900s, Aleister Crowley was the front man for ceremonial magic. We don't have to waste our Loosh discussing if he was a good guy or not, but he did have a lot of good ideas, arcanums maybe, about magical practice. My personal experience is that the biggest obstacle for magical practice has to do with authenticity. We were told from a very young age how important it is to be ourselves. But at the end of the day, how many of us are? It is not a binary, but for most, it's very easy to fall into the trap of people-pleasing and adjusting, which is not being authentic. If you have someone in your life who is 100% authentic, you will never get drained by being around, and they will always lift you up because they are not in conflict with themselves. Their energy is free flowing upwards generally, and you can relax and just tag along on that energy. Whereas if you hang around people who are inauthentic, that can be very draining, and it can also make you more likely to put on a mask yourself and, become in this state of self-conflict. According to Aleister Crowley, and I agree, the first thing we have to do in order to be able to perform any magic is to be radically authentic. And when I started on the path, it was even hard for me to express from me to me, like inside my head, what my actual values and dreams and desires were. I literally mean this. I could not state internally with any clarity the real direction I had. So to be honest, all the way from spirit to soul to mind to thoughts to language and then to bodily action. This concept is called true will. True will. And I have this cool quote from Crowley. Every man and every woman is a star. That is to say, every human being is intrinsically an independent individual with his own proper character and proper motion. Each star has its own orbit. It is for each star to move in its own orbit and not to interfere with the orbit of any other star. It is for each star to follow its own path. A man who is doing his true will has the inertia of the universe to assist him. He is like the sun in the center of its system. Everything revolves around him. Everything is related to him. He goes his own way, and his light shines everywhere. Other people seeing him are inspired to find their own orbits and to move in them. They do not get in the way because they're busy with their own business. If you, like me, grew up in a Protestant country, this might give you serious creeps because, you can think of yourself as a star. And being in the center of your own world is seen as kind of like a bad thing, even though the people we look up to, like the greatest artists and innovators, they're all doing it. But it would annoy you, maybe, if someone around you does this, to believe that they are a star. And, of course, you're free not to, but then you don't have to worry about practicing magic. This true will it starts like internally, articulating without censoring what kind of transformation you magically want to do and letting everything follow from that. And if you do this, then, the details of the ceremonies won't matter that much because you have the whole universe to support you. And vice versa. If you don't do this, but you do the ceremonies and stuff, then you're fucked. There is no point in that. And one tip that I got on this that I want to give to you is like, remember that you are at your core a good person. Because there is like this, question that comes into mind, like if I do the thing I want or I believe, then that's bad somehow. But at your core, you are divine and you are a part of God. So follow that. And if you stay awake and if you stay present, like we talked about, like effortless concentration, and then, why would you hurt anyone? Or, I don't think you who listen to this have a single bone in your body that would harm anyone. So articulate this, magically practice, stay awake, effortless concentration to navigate. And I believe you are a star. You just have to allow this truth to shine and stop hiding yourself. Yeah, I have way more of these weird but helpful concepts. I was going to talk about alchemy and the inner marriage and non-duality and kundalini, but it feels like this is a nice point to round things off. We have covered arcanums, the multi-dimensional truth objects that works as, that help us to accelerate on the path. We covered Loosh, the life energy that may or may not be harvested by invisible aliens. Esotericism, the inner hidden teachings where the good stuff is to be found. And finally, true will, the radical honesty required to perform magic practice. And these are all concepts that have been helpful for me, and you do what you will with them. Take what you need and leave the rest, as the band sang. My only hope is that you're one step wiser, more confident, more inspired, and more filled with life energy after hearing this. And I hope you remember how powerful you really are.